Well, hello, hello. I'm just waiting.
Hello, hello. Happy
Welcome.
holiday season.
Happy holiday season. Welcome to our episode 12, where we're going to look at a holiday well-being guide with less stress and more presence. So my name is Leanne.
And I'm Jason. And of course, this is Let's Talk.
So as usual, this is a space where no topic is off limits. We're going to discuss things from well-being to resilience, leadership, money, relationship mindset. Well, and hello, hello. I'm just waiting for much more.
Hello. Happy
Welcome.
holiday season.
Happy holiday season. Welcome to our episode 12, where we're going to look at a holiday well-being guide with less stress and more. Oops. Okay. Sorry about that. We just had a technical glitch.
Yes, we did. A reintroduction of ourselves.
A reintroduction. So for those that might have missed it, we've got Leanne and Jason and Leanne.
And it's the holiday season.
It is the holiday season. So
So, and here at Let's Talk, we bring different perspectives, real stories, and honest conversations because the things we don't often talk about are really the things that matter most.
absolutely. And so our goal here is really simple. It's to spark new ideas, to shift mindsets, and to give you practical tools that you can use in your life and your leadership.
So, today, whether you're tuning in for inspiration, growth, or just a fresh perspective, let's talk.
Let's talk. And as I said, today we're talking about a topic that almost everyone experiences at this time of year. You know, that question around how am I going to survive the holiday season and have my well-being intact? And the well-being can be mentally, emotionally, physically, and energetically. And I just want to touch on this particular holiday season seems to have even more requirements for us to be able to navigate it well. There's lots of stuff happening on our shores here in Australia this week. I know there's stuff that's happened in America, and I know that there's some really awful stuff happening around the globe. So really our conversation today is how can we navigate all of that in a way that is useful, that is intentional, and that actually takes care of us through all of this.
Yeah, I think you touched on something, really important, Leanne. There's just so much that has happened just within a week's period of time, like you said, on the Australian shore, on the United States shore, and just all the different tragedies going on around the globe that some have been going on for the last couple of years. And and we just wanted to make sure here at Let's Talk that we acknowledged what's going on, and it's definitely brought up a lot of different emotions for folks, and and it's happening like right at the start of Hanukkah. Christmas is here in just a week's time, and we just want to let people know that um, you know we're here for you. We feel what's happening on both of our continents, and we hope that today's conversation will give you a little bit of hope and joy and just some tools to help you kind of navigate through what is already a difficult and stressful time anyways, but more than ever the presence that we need within this holiday time in general around the holidays, but also presence around what's going on around the globe, um, and what it takes from a well-being standpoint on a personal, family, group level to navigate through these difficult times.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to put in there, Leanne?
I think some of the topics that we've covered in our previous podcasts are really foundational at this particular time, like learning how to navigate your own space, being kind to yourself, self-compassion, checking in on those that that you love, and finding an ability to be present amongst the chaos. um
Yeah.
So we'll double click on some of those today and give you some more resources that you can use, not just at this time of year and not just through this trying time, but at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And because while the holidays are marketed as joy, celebration, family, and fun, which, there's definitely that part of it. In reality, it's often overstimulation, expectations, financial pressures, emotional triggers, because we know that the holiday times isn't always the happiest for every single person. And then there's just the exhaustion that comes with it. And, oftentimes I hear after the holidays and holiday break is like, oh my gosh, I need a whole nother vacation just to recover from the holidays. So, we get that there's the exhaustion piece that goes in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've all felt it. You go to the shops, you go to buy stuff, and it's overstimulation. I can't wait to get out. Not to mention trying to just escape the car parks. There's so much that goes on. So today we're really going to look at the holiday season through neuroscience and through emotional intelligence, using those lenses as we also do, working out what's actually happening in our brain, why small things suddenly feel really big, and how old family patterns can get activated at this time of year, and how to regulate yourself like a pro so you can navigate all of those things in a way that serves you and serves others.
Absolutely. And, whether you love this time of year like I do, or you dread it, which I know some people in my life who do dread this time of year, this episode will help you walk into the season both grounded, clear, and also in more control of your choices on the day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because we know that this holiday season can trigger us, right? It really can. And so let's start with what's actually happening to the brain during the holiday season. So when December hits our calendar, our nervous system all of a sudden gets flooded. It gets flooded with novelty, it gets flooded with noise, it gets flooded with expectations, and that becomes overstimulation in the brain. And when the brain senses too much, well, like when we're overstimulated or overwhelmed, the amygdala, which is our emotional center in the brain, interprets that as a threat. And even if it's just shopping centers, social events, or an overloaded to-do list, and I know that I have that. Like I woke up this morning and my heart was pounding. It's like, oh, 1 week, we've got 1 week. So these things happen. And even if you know how to regulate yourself, even if you think that you've got the skills, your prefrontal cortex, that thinking part of your brain, the one that's responsible for the decision making and emotional regulation, it helps us to plan, it helps us to reason. It often goes offline faster. So we need it more, and yet it's kind of flying out the window quicker than we would like, which is why you see people snap. It's why kids melt down. It's why adults melt down. Like you see really weird things happening at this time of year. It's why adults suddenly find themselves crying in the car, or when they're parked at Woolies. Now we call our grocery store Woolies, and Woolworths, because we're English and or Australian, and we cut everything down because we're lazy. So, you go to get your shopping done, you get into the car and you're so overwhelmed at the end of it. And it's what I want to say is that it's not you, right? It's not that you've got some sort of design flaw. It's not that you've not got coping mechanisms. It's actually your neurobiology. Your system is overwhelmed and overwired. And really, what we want to, I suppose, articulate is that stress narrows your perception. You can't actually see all the options that are available. So we have this quite narrowed view. Literally, our eyesight gets narrowed when we're under a stress state. Everything feels urgent. So there's this additional pressure that it has to be done now. And even if it doesn't. And so because of that, our internal nervous system is dysregulated.
Yeah. And so, a concept that we want to talk about, in this area that Leeanne was just talking about is how do we regulate before we navigate. Kind of a catchy line.
I like
Uh,
it.
I
Regulate
know, me too.
before you navigate.
So what people actually, so what a person can actually do to regulate during this system is they can do a mantra. I like to use regulate before you navigate, which was kind of uh, the theme of this next part of the conversation. Also, one, slow your breathing. We've talked in many episodes about the box breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's just you can do it for a minute, you can do it for 2 minutes, but it's the simplest, most effective nervous system reset. Is that box breathing? Inhale for 4, exhale for 4. Pause for 4, inhale, and do the same pattern. It signals safety to your brain. It gets that oxygen flow. It helps to calm your parasympathetic nervous system. Also, another micro regulation that you can do is people think that they need a big meditation session. And they're like, oh God, like I don't have time for that. It's like busy. Like I don't have time for 20 minutes of meditation. No, all you need is a 30-second reset sprinkled throughout the day. Everyone has 30 seconds, you know? So some examples of this is stepping outside of the room that you're currently in. Give yourself a new space. Like in our environmental well-being episode, to create that well-being space, go from your office, if you work at home, into that well-being space just for 30 seconds. Grounding your feet, preferably outside in the grass. If the time of year calls for that. If it's snowy outside, you're probably not going to be grounding them on the grass. You might ground them on the snow if that helps.
Can I just add something to that? One of the
Yeah.
things that I will often do if I can't get outside is that I'll stand with my feet firmly planted on the floor, and I envisage like the roots of the trees coming up through the ground and actually holding my feet to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great grounding exercise. It takes 10 or 20 seconds, but you just kind of feel Mother Earth holding you to the ground, and that
Yeah.
can really help even if you can't get outside.
Yeah.
Barefoot is great, inside or out.
Yeah.
But that's one that I will often use when I can't move away from where I'm at.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, here in California, we have a little more sun most of the year. So, we see the sprinklings of the grass more often than like in some areas of the United States and different parts of the world where there's snow on the ground. So I think that's a great indoor reframe of that. Um, Also, holding a warm drink in your hand and just doing some slow breathing. Saying, I'm safe, I'm here, I choose how I show up. So, some simple exercises to do those 30-second resets throughout the day. Um, and and next is to check your inner dialogue. If you're thinking, I have to do everything, your brain pumps out adrenaline and cortisol. But if you think I can do this one thing at a time, your nervous system stays calm. So it's that checking in with yourself and being like, okay, what is my inner dialogue telling me? And how can I reframe it to help me stay calm and centered so that you can actually get more done? So, just think from a neuroscience point of view is that thoughts are chemical instructions. Shifting the thought shifts the chemistry, which shifts how you feel. And no one wants to feel that ick, overwhelm, like, oh my God, go into anxiety, because that's when you go into the spiraling effects, and that's when you get nothing done. So some little tips and tricks to help you get through your day. And definitely this time of year, just with the holidays in general, and just with all the extra stuff, heavy stuff going on, these pauses throughout the day are going to be a lifesaver
Yeah.
for you.
And even if you can't do the box breathing for whatever reason, just a really simple way to breathe is you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds and breathe out for 6. Like, just slow your breathing down. And just doing that in its own right can navigate, can help you navigate the stress. It calms that sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system, and it allows you to just come back to your presence and to your body. So feel it is really the key. The other thing that I want to talk about today is boundaries, because boundaries really are the holiday superpower. And superpower. And boundaries is a really big one, because a lot of us feel that boundaries are walls, or that we can't actually set boundaries. Women in particular can struggle with setting boundaries because of our conditioning to please others. But boundaries are not walls at all. In emotional intelligence, boundaries actually are clarity. It's letting others know how to treat you. And there are times, at this time of year in particular, it puts pressure on people to attend everything, to say yes to everything, to tolerate behavior that you've outgrown, or engage in conversations that actually drain your energy. And so setting some boundaries around what works for you, and then following through on that, can be a very important tool. And I give you permission to set them, especially to all the women, because like I say, our conditioning actually stops us from doing that. We want to please. We've been conditioned to love and to be of service and to nurture everybody, but you can't give from an empty vessel. So we have to look after ourselves first, and the way to do that with some easy but kind boundary scripts that you can use or adopt for those that you care about. So I'm just going to go over a couple of them, just so you can start thinking about, maybe I can use that. Now, I don't want you to think of this as a script that you have to say word for word. Find your flavor, right? Find your languaging, find your way of saying it. But just to support you, you can say things like, listen, I can stay for an hour, and then I've got plans and I need to recharge my battery. Or, I'd love to come to your event, but I'm keeping things low key this year. Or, I'm not discussing that topic today. Let's talk about something that we can actually both enjoy. That's a really big one when you've got families that want to keep bringing up or reshaping or reconversing about things from the past. Jason, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, and I think that this particular point, Leeanne, I think is very important with our political climate
Yeah,
that is currently
playing
where
out.
playing out. Yes, it's just like I was at a loss for words. I'm not at a loss for words very often. But I think that this is a good script to follow. Just because of all the political differences, in families and friend groups and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you can just say, you know what, I'm not discussing politics today. Or even like if you're a host, you could even put something on your door as people walk in, check your politics at the door.
Yeah.
Because I've just seen so much angst, anger, and stress that when it's supposed to be a time of getting together and enjoying people, and then the wrong person mentions politics, and then it goes down a whole rabbit hole, and you just never know who's in the room and what they believe on that spectrum. So I think to help lower the temperature in that department this year, I think that's a great kind of one-liner to kind of just,
Yeah. I'm not
yeah.
discussing that topic today. Let's
Yep.
just talk about something we can both enjoy. In my family, it's not politics that creates the trouble, it's the religion. So, we've got multiple religions in my family, and when they all come together, everyone wants to kind of prove that theirs is the bestest and the rightest and so, for us, we've just got that policy now amongst the family. We just do not bring religion into the conversation.
Mhm.
And it works quite well, because everyone walks away enjoying the day rather than walking away after a fight, which no one wants. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. And I'll repeat it so you've got it. I'm not discussing that topic today. Let's talk about something we can both enjoy. And at least that way you can find something else to converse about rather than the things that actually cause those angst. Thank you for bringing that in, Jason. Another one is saying, thanks for asking, but that doesn't work for me this year. And really owning your energy and your space. Like, what is going to work for you? And what do you do out of obligation that actually doesn't work for you? So being really clear about that. Boundaries can help us reduce resentment because we often say yes when we mean no. It can prevent burnout when we feel like we've got to do 1,000 things for so many other people. And it actually preserves relationships. Brene Brown has a comment, and it's something like, boundaries are the place where I can love you and me simultaneously. And I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it. It's not that I don't want to love you. I do, but I want to love me too. And boundaries allow me to do both things at the same time. So, because they can create that emotional safety. And as a regulated, when you're regulated, you're kinder. You can then show up better for those that you want to show up with. So I think the boundary conversation is a big one. I think it's an ongoing learning for many, many people. And the other thing that I just wanted to highlight is that no, the word no is a complete sentence. We don't need to justify. We don't need to over explain. We don't need to do all of that. Just thanks, but no. Can be another really good one that we can use. And again, we can say what we mean without saying it mean.
Yeah. And, it's one of the things that, I've had to learn over kind of my adulthood and professional life, being a yes person, and always wanting to please and all that, is once I learned the power of my no actually makes my yes that much more powerful. It actually kind of instilled in me more courage to be like, you know what, if I'm really feeling no here, it's okay for me to say it.
Yeah.
And then it did make my yes more powerful.
Yeah. And it also then gives you empathy, Jason, for other people's no's.
Yeah.
Like we start realizing that, hey, we're all human beings, not human doings. And if you don't have the capacity right now, because I can say no and be okay with that, I can then be okay with other people saying no. Without, making up a story or the itty bitty shitty committee going off in my head. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So next we want to touch upon those emotional flashbacks and old family patterns that tend to creep in. So, let's talk about why people sometimes instantly feel like they're teenagers again when they go home for Christmas. And just that, oh, why, am I feeling this way? Or why am I going back into this old pattern, when it just brings up, whatever patterns or experiences or emotions, etc. So it's the limbic system, the emotional memory center. It doesn't tell time. So when you walk into familiar spaces or hear familiar voices, when we go home, especially if it's the home that we grow up in, old emotional patterns get triggered. So, for example, if mom used to criticize your life choices, or dad was dismissive, or siblings teased you, your nervous system remembers that because it's hardwired in you. And suddenly you're 12 again. Even though you're 53 with a business and a mortgage and a family, or all the et ceteras that go along with that. Here's what helps when you get into those situations is recognize the trigger. right? Remind yourself this is old, it's not current. Ground your feet. Like Leanne said, even if you can't go outside, ground them inside, breathe slowly, step away if needed. We always have our phone as a crutch if we need it in those type of situations. Like, oh, I got to grab this phone call, maybe even if there isn't a phone call coming in, just to get that step away and not get blamed for stepping away. And connect with someone safe. That's also the beauty of the cell phone, right? Is that you can, like on WhatsApp, like I could call Leanne, like, like across the Pacific and say, ah, um, someone who's gonna have that listening and empathetic ear. One of my favorite lines is, I respond from who I am now, not who I used to be. Because, we all get in those spaces where we get in that hamster wheel of like, well, it used to be this way. I used to do this. I used to do that. This is, how I was viewed by my siblings, et cetera. And it can just be this hamster wheel that you just can't jump off of. And just, even if you get into that internal dialogue, just take a step back and say, you know what, this is not who I am now. And it's in the past. And that can even be an amazing reset in the moment, if you allow yourself to do that.
There's a actually great book, which isn't on our book recommendation, but I think it's a great one to mention here. It's called Your Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about how those triggers stay in our system, and going back into those environments can really kind of have that come up. So I love that. I respond from who I am now, not who I used to be. So you're reprogramming your nervous system to, and basically parenting that inner child, right? It's like, I've got you, boo. It's good. I'm going to respond from me as an adult. We don't need to kind of come up with that warning signal anymore. So you can kind of regulate yourself in lots of ways. And yes, I think, therapy helps, doing the work, inner work helps. We often talk about do the work. So some of these patterns no longer get triggered in you, but some of them just do. I was driving past a house. I was driving actually up the road just recently, and I didn't even notice where I was, but my body started trembling. And I looked up and realized that I actually was at a place where I had had a traumatic experience when I was much younger. So my physical eyes and my mind didn't know that that's where I was, but my body responded.
Mm-hmm.
And so these things happen, our heartbeat raises, our or gets palpitations, your skin gets clammy, your tongue gets tired, you can't say things very well. So just giving yourself that space, and allowing yourself to really realize that I don't have to respond from who I was. I'm responding from who I am now. I love that. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. Yeah. I just put one little example in there, Leanne, like, one thing that I used to struggle with, like when I was home, right? And, my parents might say, like, well, where are you going? What time are you going to be back? And I'm like, I am like 35 years old. Like, do I have to give you an exact time of when I'm going to be back? And, that used to trigger me a lot, because I'm like, oh my God, it's like they don't respect me as an adult. And it's one of those things that, it's amazing from a parenting point of view, right? Now that I'm older, it's just like, it's amazing how those ways of parenting are also a default for our parents.
Yeah.
So sometimes as we get triggered, we also have to remember that, like, sometimes it's just a natural way of being for them, just to, be like, well, where are you going? What time are you going to be back? And, which car are you going to use? And so, it's one of those things of like, kind of also meeting folks where they're at too. Will sometimes also help to be like, okay, that's not the current. It's, how my mom or dad parented, when growing up. And it's just something that they may not even be self-aware of that they're doing. But I know that that's a trigger for, I know, a lot of people, especially around the holidays or, big times when you go home, and it just is like, oh my gosh, like, no, like,
Yeah. And yeah, I love that, because one of the things that I did in those situations, because that upsets me as well, it's just like, I'm not a child, is that I just remember this is their way of loving.
yeah,
And their way is not my way. It's just their way of loving. And it allowed me to then not get so annoyed by those conversations and the, where are you going to be? What time are you getting home? How does that look? Oh, yes, I hear you, Jason. I absolutely hear you. Thank you.
yes,
So cognitive overload can happen when we're really trying to think about perfectionism and people pleasing. And let's face it, at this time of year, we want to do everything right. We want it to look good. We want everybody to, to have a great time. And we put all of this pressure on ourselves. So our mental load literally triples during the holidays. It's not that it's an easy thing. It's absolutely not. We've got to consider the fact that this actually is affecting my brain without me even being aware of it. The other thing that comes in at this point is decision fatigue. I mean, that's real. The average person makes over 35,000 decisions a day. And if you add holiday planning on top of that, then those kind of decisions then skyrocket. And then the decisions around, what are we going to buy for Christmas? What are we going to do? What are we going to eat? Like, all of it can kick in and really affect our brain. So the brain starts shortcutting. It starts rushing. It starts snapping. It starts forgetting things. If I don't have a list right now in my world, I'm cactus. I'm forgetting things and dropping things left, right, and center, because of there's so many competing priorities for the neural resources that I have. And we talk about we can only hold 4 things at best in our brain. So if you've got, all the shopping lists and all the food that you want to do and all the people that you've got to send cards to and all of this, like, something's going to drop, right? And this is where we've got to really be okay with good enough rather than perfection. Good
yeah,
enough becomes a well-being strategy. It becomes a tool. Perfectionism burns energy, and it burns energy that we don't actually have. And you can't be perfect. It doesn't exist. Tony Robbins always talks about perfectionism as the lowest form, right, of achievement, because we're trying to do something that is impossible. Whereas if we can kind of have progress over perfection, or at least have good enough over perfection, that's going to give us much more space internally. So, some of the things that you can do, and I've had to adapt this over the last few weeks, is just pick 3 priorities a day, just 3. And if that feels too much, just 2, like, just focus on what are the 2 things that I want to do. One thing that I stopped doing was writing a list every day. So I do my to-do list on Post-it notes now. If I don't get it done, and the 2 reasons. One, if I get it done, I get to scrunch that Post-it note and throw it in the bin, and it feels good. I get that sense of reward. But secondly, if I didn't get to that today, I can just pick it up and move it on to tomorrow. I don't have to rewrite the same thing again, which can have us feeling like we're not actually achieving things. So adding a little bit of novelty can be really useful, a little bit of playfulness in out the way we're doing our list, but just focusing on that 1, 2, or 3 priorities. And then if we get other things done, great. And if we don't have to beat ourselves up. The other one that I think is sometimes hard for all of us, especially if we're perfectionists and recovering control freaks. I put my hand up to that, because I think we can all be, no one can do it as good as me, but they don't have to do it like you. They just need to get it done. So delegating can be really useful. A lot of people, and I've seen it, I've got a million things to do, and yet there might be 5 people in the house sitting there watching TV. Like, delegate, get people's help, right? Get their buy-in. So that way you can share the load as opposed to carry the load yourself. Sometimes you can just buy food instead of cooking it if you need to. Like,
yeah,
really, do we need to be spending hours and hours in the kitchen? And listen, I do. Like, I love to do the big turkey. You do turkey for Thanksgiving. I do it for Christmas here in Australia. The big lambs, like, they take hours to cook. I actually cook them outside on the barbecue these days. And which means that every time I've got to go and baste it, I have to go outside. In that moment, I can breathe, I can ground myself. But, we have Australian hot summer Christmases. So if it was snowing, I probably wouldn't do that. But, find ways to do things that actually allow you to release some of that load. And I can't tell you, there's been years, and I think this year particularly will be one where I don't think I'm going to do a big cook up. Because of all the events that have happened in our society just recently, there's a lot of stuff to navigate right now. So I'm just going to drop things that don't matter. And I encourage you to do that as well. Don't hold on to all the things. Like if something really doesn't matter, let it go, or put it to the side. And if you get to it, great. Because people want to spend time with you. It's not really about all the things that you're doing. It's not about the food, the this or that. Get people to bring food, like a potluck. Everybody brings something for our Christmas lunch or dinner or our, festivities. So again, using that to reduce your load. Get things out of your brain. Like I said, put it onto Post-it notes, put it into a list, because if we've got too many things up here, even before we get started, it feels overwhelming. So if we can get it out of our brain and onto paper, it's a better way of navigating the stress. And the second we remove it from our brain, we feel like we have space. Instead of mental clutter, we've got mental space, and that's a really useful thing. And let it be real and human, just not perfect. Just be real and human. I think people appreciate vulnerability and realness more than they do the perfect everything, where they feel like then they can't sit on your lounge because it's too clean, or they can't do this. Like, you want people to come into your space and feel relaxed. And because of mirror neurons, if you're hyper stressed and people come into your space, they are going to get stressed. Their blood pressure raises because we infect everyone around us, and the strongest emotion wins. And it's usually stress and anxiety that are the stronger emotions, right? Sometimes really, really happy people can come in and they help us, but be mindful of that. How do you want to affect those that are coming into your space? Because then mirror neurons will pick up on your levels of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, Leanne, like one of the things that came to mind was, lean into people's strengths, you know, like we all have different strengths. And so it's like, and what made me think about that is when you were talking about delegation, right? Being a recovering perfectionist myself, it's like nobody could do it the way that I could do it. And it's like, but when you get out of your own way and you be like, okay, you know what? I have 5 people here. Like, how can I maximize this moment, to make sure that everything gets done by 5 o'clock, let's just say, right? And so it's like when you get out of your own way and utilize people's strengths, it's amazing on how much more than you can move forward powerfully. And yeah, and with all those decisions, and then also the heaviness of this year with all the events, there's even, especially for those families who have been directly affected, there's that many more decisions that have to be made within all the holiday noise and trying to please and this, that, and the next thing. So to round that out, just think about if you're hosting or whatever, like utilize people's strengths. It's amazing how much more you can get done when you do that, and how much more you actually then become in a state of calm versus in a state of stress and high anxiety. So with that, oh, did you want to say something, Leanne?
No, I was just thinking that it's about time spent with people, really, at the end of the day. Like, that's what the holiday season is about. It's about time spent. And so if we can get rid of all the things that again, human being versus human doing, right? Be with people rather than do everything for the people.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, I think that was an amazing lead in to about the conversation around creating intentional presence, right? Because that's kind of the sub theme of our conversation today, is to minimize stress and create more presence. So when it gets down to it, presence is a choice, right? People remember how you made them feel, not whether the napkins matched the tree or your outfit matched all your decorations, etc. Depends on how far out there you go. I've kind of seen it all, it seems like, but then there's always something that surprises me where I'm like, I think I've seen it all, but then I haven't. But remember, at the end of the day, presence is a choice. And you have the power of that choice. So think about replacing those big expectations with smaller moments that are more digestible, that are more meaningful. And at the end of the day, kind of create the larger impact, right? So some of those small moments could be having a coffee, whether it's a coffee in your well-being space with you or someone else. So whether that's in your home or you go out for coffee, that's a small moment. Taking a walk after lunch, have a tech-free hour, which from our digital and technological well-being episode, uh, using it as a not as a trap, but as a tool. And it's okay to put that phone and all the digital devices away for an hour. It'll still be there, right? um, and also practice gratitude. There's so much out there. There's so many resources in the area of gratitude. Journaling, card decks, games, um, podcasts, that just focus in this area of gratitude. So do a practice of gratitude. It's amazing how much that also helps to regulate you. And reframe being performative to connection oriented. So many people feel that they have to be so performative during the holidays. Like, everything has to be perfect. I got to give the best gifts. I got to do this, that, the next thing. But at the end of the day, you're really not creating connection. You're creating yourself looking good.
If I could just jump in with that, one
Yeah.
of the things that we train, like I train coaches on how to coach. And one of my favorite phrases is presence over process. And I think it goes beautifully with this. It's your presence over the process of what you're doing, right? Like presence speaks volumes. So just when you said that, Jason, it just kind of reminded me that if we can just sit with that presence, things will work as they should, as they are meant to. But it's the connection that is more important than any of the processes that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And like sometimes there is a space for performative, right? Like like there could be, like, if you're hosting an event, maybe it's like that first hour you're in performative mode, like, making sure everyone feels comfortable, making sure everyone has a drink of their choice, making sure people's coats are hung up. But then, allow connection time, because the party's going to flow anyways. you know um so just remember, you can have space for both, but sometimes people totally forget about the connection part, and they think that they're creating a connection through the performance, but they're really not.
Yeah.
So just remember these small practices to create those small moments, um, because they will help regulate, they'll help you connect, and they'll just help regulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and just allow you to be more present than um, disconnected from But a lot of that also too, I'll say, comes through one's own self-awareness. So you got to have that self-awareness lens on of when you're like, oh my gosh, like at this whole event or this whole holiday party, all I've been doing is scrolling on my phone or texting or this. You're not connecting. You may be connecting with somebody online, but you're not connecting in the moment. Um, and so you're really kind of doing yourself a disservice when you do that. So just take these small moments and put them into practice. You don't have to do them all in one day. You can take these and just do one a day. And we still have plenty of time between now and the actual holiday season when it's over, which is after New Year's. So at the end, remember to protect your energy by choosing who and what gets your attention, and ask yourself what matters most today.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
can,
What matters most. I love that.
yeah. And if you can answer that question, you're just setting yourself up so much more powerfully for a day of experience and connection versus um, the opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we know that this season can be hard for you. For some, it can be very, very difficult or harder than for others. And when I say hard, it can be emotionally difficult, financially straining, or energetically draining, right? So please remember that you don't have to perform joy to deserve peace. You don't have to, I'll say that again, perform joy to deserve peace. You can take it slow. You can choose differently. You can choose to protect your energy and be okay with that. Like, really be okay with that. Because at the end of the day, the gift that we give is our presence. And presence is more important than anything else, really. Not the presence that we buy, but our presence to be with people, our connection, our heart to heart, our ability to be able to see and appreciate. Because really, as human beings, that's what we want. We want to feel seen, we want to feel heard, and we want to feel appreciated. All of us want that. So this year, make your number one priority to do that over performance. I think that's, the key. And especially at this time of year, because it isn't great for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye out and an ear out, and just, even if it's 5 minutes, just sit with someone and give them your undivided attention, as opposed to sitting with them. They're talking and you're in your head thinking about, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. You're not present. Like,
No,
really choose that presence.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's just so important and such an amazing reminder in the hustle and bustle of of just the season and the world that that we live in, and just always being connected and all that. And just taking those moments is just such a reset in itself.
Yeah.
Even if it's with another human being.
Mhm.
Um, awesome. So shall we go into book recommendations?
I think we shall. I think we shall. So
Okay.
the first book, do you want me to do the books and you do the tips, Jason? Is that how we're running?
That's how we're running today.
That's how we're running. So the first book, Behave by Robert Sapolsky, is a really interesting book. It's a powerful neuroscience lens on why we react under stress. It's perfect for understanding those family triggers, dynamics, emotional flashbacks, and holiday overwhelm. And it helps us to respond with compassion instead of reactivity. So it's a great book to read. And I love that it's kind of steeped in neuroscience and understanding, because I really believe that when we know better and we understand ourselves better, then we can do better. So that's the first book. The second one is Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab, I think is how I pronounce that. And please forgive me if I haven't said that right. But this one is a clear, compassionate guide to helping you protect your energy and navigating those holiday dynamics with confidence, with kindness, and with self-respect, but also respecting others. But self-respect has to come first. I remember somebody once said to me, you can only be selfless from a selfish point of view. And I remember looking, it was my father that said it, and I remember looking at him and going, what does that even mean? But what I really got was that if I'm not taking care of myself, then I can't give to others. So we can, if we've got that self-respect, that self-efficacy, then we can actually give effectively, and by choice. So set boundaries, find peace. And the last one here is Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by Dr. Julie Smith. And again, this is a practical and compassionate guide. It gives you strategies for emotional regulation, for anxiety, for resilience. So it's perfect for navigating the holiday stress with steadiness and self-kindness, but it's also useful outside the holidays, right? So none of these books are specifically holiday centric, but they're all going to give you tools on how to navigate this time of year as well as your whole life, right? Much better. So they're the top tips for the book. And the one that I mentioned before was Your Body Keeps the Score. And I can't remember the gentleman's name. It's a doctor. I'll have a look at it while you're looking for or while you're doing the top tips, Jason.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I think that this also too, when folks get some downtime in this holiday season, I think it's a great time to relook through some of our past episodes in these dimensions of well-being. And, if you are an avid reader, to download the books or order the books, and, just kind of re-go through our top tips, as kind of a way to kind of end the year powerfully on a reflective note. So, like I know some of our episodes are longer in length, but you can scroll through them on our YouTube page. And but I think it's, if you haven't caught everything that we've done over the last number of weeks, I think this is a great time of year just to kind of pause and just take a look back, even if it's at the top book recommendations or top tips, which I will go into now, unless you found the book.
I did. I did. So it's The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And it's an amazing book, so definitely worth reading, which talks about why our physicality can react before our brain even recognizes it, and how to navigate that space.
Yeah. Okay, so our top tips for this episode on holiday well-being is to regulate before you navigate. Your nervous system is your compass. And, listen to your body, listen to your nervous system, see the direction that it's telling you, also, look, like when you're looking at this and using your nervous system as a compass, like what is your intuition telling you, right? Because your intuition could be saying you need to do A in order to regulate to B. So use your nervous system as a compass. It will always guide you in the right direction. That's the magic of being human. Secondly, boundaries make the holidays lighter. And also within that clarity is kindness. It's just like when I was talking about when you have the courage to say no, your yes becomes more powerful. When you allow yourself to put up healthy boundaries, you show up more powerful. And you show up clearer and most times kinder. Because a lot of times when we're operating outside of boundaries that we know should be up, that's sometimes when we get, grouchy, grumpy, we may not always be the best version of ourselves in the moment. So, have the courage to put up those boundaries. And I know from a work point of view, it's hard sometimes. It's hard when you're in certain positions and you always feel like you have to be that yes person, which I felt like many times in my career when I worked internally. But reflecting back now, I could have shown up so much more powerfully in certain instances if I would have had the courage to put up those boundaries because I would have been able to show up more powerfully and done better at A, B, and C, whatever that A, B, and C was at that time. And our third top tip is presence beats perfection. Leeanne and I, both recovering perfectionists. Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect. It's just not. And I think that's why perfectionists struggle a lot of times, is because we're always looking for, if I just do one more little thing, it's going to be perfect. But there's always 100 more of those little things, right? So remember that presence beats perfection, and good enough is truly enough. I heard earlier this year that done is the new perfect. So like if you've been thinking about, oh God, I want to put up my website, just to get people interested in me being a speaker, but it's like you could be in that hamster wheel of analytical, of deliberative, et cetera, and then it never gets done, and a whole nother year has passed. And it's because you let your perfectionism get in the way and having to follow every single step exactly. So just remember, done is the new perfection, and good enough is truly enough.
Yeah, just to that perfectionist piece, Jason, I just wanted to jump in and say, perfectionism is the killer of all joy and the stealer of most dreams.
Yep.
Right? Because it's never going to be perfect. And then people just don't do what they want to do. So, we're doing this. It's not perfect by any means, but are we having a ball? Absolutely. Is it done? Absolutely. Is it good enough? Absolutely. So, if anything, let us be the shining examples of not perfect, recovering perfectionists, not perfect, but still, just doing what we do and enjoying it anyway.
Yeah. Because, I'll say, Leeanne, just from a personal point of view, like when I used to be so much more in my perfectionism or perfectionists hamster wheel, like what happened earlier in the episode with us repeating ourselves, oh my God, like that would have just driven me nuts. Where now I'm like, okay, it happened. We can edit it out if we want, but the show must go on.
The show must go on, And I think if you can actually, and for all the listeners here, if you can lead by example, it allows others to put down their perfectionism and actually show up imperfectly and good enough, right? So, because like attracts like, if we can model the behaviors, then it gives other people the space and grace to allow themselves for that as well. And what a beautiful gift that is.
Exactly. All right. So
this is our last episode for the year. My goodness, we've kind of been here for 12 episodes now. It's incredible that we've gotten to this point, and it's just been such a wonderful ride. I've really enjoyed working with you, Jason, over the last 12 episodes, and I'm very much looking forward to our next series starting in January. So for those of you in USA, it'll be the 14th of January at 2:30 PTD, Pacific Daylight Saving Time. And for all of those of you on this side of the pond, it'll be the 15th of January at 9:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And watch this space for our next series title. It will be announced soon. So we will see you next time. And from both of us, really, we wish you a very peaceful, safe, and happy holiday season. May it be calmer. May you be kinder to yourself and be more intentional about the way that you show up for you and for those around you.
absolutely. And, thanks for joining us today for our conversation on a holiday well-being guide, less stress, more presence. It's just been such a insightful conversation today. even for myself, there's some new insights and some new practices that I want to lean into over the next couple of weeks.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny because we have these conversations and the impact on my own life every time after it, it's like I learn new skills that I bring to the table. So we hoped, as usual, that today's session has sparked something new for you, an insight, a fresh perspective, a question worth asking or exploring, or even just a way to give yourself some ease and grace over this holiday period.
Yeah, and our mission here at Let's Talk is simple. To have the conversations that matter and to remind you, you don't have to do this complicated, complex thing called life, and figure it out all on your own. We are here to help you, give you insights, give you tools and tips, and always with a neuroscience framework, um, so that um, so that you're connected to how your brain works in all this and your body works in all this, because it's just so incredibly helpful when you have that area of self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're not broken, we're not deficient, right? It's just that our brains behave in certain ways and certain triggers can create certain things. And the more we understand that, the better the choices that we can make to navigate that. So, what was your mantra? Navigate, regulate before you navigate. That's
Navigate,
it.
yes.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, please, share it with friends, like it, subscribe, and keep the conversation going with us.
Yes, because when we talk,
we really talk.
and anything is possible.
So let's talk.
With real conversations.
And limitless possibilities. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Peaceful
you.
holidays to you all. We'll see you in the new year.
See you in the new year.